The Detroit Lions had their best season in decades last year, making it all the way to the NFC Championship, which has led many to believe that 2024 could possibly be their year of destiny to finally bring home their first Super Bowl franchise in history. However, we think that most people are getting a bit ahead of themselves, and today we're going to break down why the Detroit Lions are not going to be winning the Super Bowl in 2024, taking a look at how their 2023 season played out, as well as the players they picked up and lost during the offseason, plus pointing out some of the key weaknesses on film that are definitely going to hold them back. So let's get things started with the 2023 season recap. Detroit's 2023 season campaign got off to a, get this, surprising start with a 21-20 win over the defending Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs. And while many did see this as a Super Bowl hangover on the Chiefs' part, and maybe a fluke for the Lions, Detroit coasted through the first 8 weeks of the season, posting a 6-2 record going into their bye week. They kept their foot on the gas through the remainder of the year, finishing the regular season with a 12-5 record, which was the best in the NFC North and the Lions' best regular season finish since 1991. In the postseason, they took on former franchise quarterback Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams in the wild-card round, narrowly escaping to the divisional round by a final score of 24-23. In the divisional, they handily took down the Buccaneers 31-23, and this win earned them their first ever appearance in the NFC Championship in 32 years. Now, it would appear that this was by far a year of destiny for Detroit, but however, they did lose a heartbreaker to San Francisco by a score of 34-31. Despite the tough loss and being just 1 or 2 plays away from the Super Bowl, this was still an amazing season for the Lions, as they had one of the best passing offenses in the league, headed by the elite connection between quarterback Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was named to the All-Pro first team. Detroit finished the season ranked 2nd in passing yards and 4th in passing touchdowns. Even with the elite production through the air, the Lions' run game was nothing to scoff at either, with the backfield splits carried between established veterans David Montgomery and rookie Jahmyr Gibbs. Despite not being as involved in the offense early in the season as they may have expected, he still carved out a role for himself and proved to be one of the most promising young talents in the running back position. His versatility both on the ground and as a pass catcher made him completely tough to defend, and a player who will go on to terrorize opposing defenses for many years to come. The pair of Montgomery and Gibbs ended up leading the Lions to the 5th most rushing yards and the most rushing touchdowns in an NFL season. On the defensive side of the ball, Detroit stopped the run extremely well, and that's due to Detroit's heavy blitz scheme paired with the elite play from Aiden Hutchinson, who earned 14 tackles for loss last season. While Detroit gave up the 2nd fewest rushing yards last season, they struggled to stop teams around the goal line, finishing near the middle of the league and rushing touchdowns allowed. However, their passing defense was a whole different ballgame. Due to their commitment in being able to stop the run, they were oftentimes killed through the air, leading to Detroit ranking 27th in passing yards and passing touchdowns allowed. Now, what about key acquisitions once the season was done and over with? The Lions front office made it a priority to retain all the talent that they could from their elite offensive units until last season. This meant that the Lions were going to be shelling out a collective $444 million to sign Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and right tackle Penei Sewell to 4-year deals. Keeping this core on the offensive side of the ball was necessary, and losing any one of those 3 key players could have spelled the end of any chance the Lions had of even sniffing the Super Bowl with their current core. However, the remainder of their offseason efforts were put into bulking up their defense, where they signed Marcus Davenport and DJ Reader to line up alongside Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive line of the ball. With opposing O-lines forced to send extra bodies at Hutchinson, 2024 could end up being great years for both of the Lions' new signings. In the secondary, they made a deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that landed them Carlton Davis with 2 6th-round picks for a 3rd-round pick. The veteran presence of Davis should not only bring some stability to the Lions' pass defense, but also give their younger corners a mentor to be able to aid their development. Arguably the 2 biggest beneficiaries of the acquisition of Davis are the players that the Lions selected with their first 2 picks in the draft. That being Terrion Arnold with the 24th overall pick and Ennis Rakestraw Jr. with the 61st overall pick. While it may take time for these two rookies to be able to adjust defending NFL caliber receivers, they can end up being great impact players on the tail end of the regular season. And of course, how can we forget the key departures? The two biggest key departures for Detroit over the offseason was losing Jonah Jackson, who signed with the Los Angeles Rams, and CJ Gardner-Johnson, who made a return to Philadelphia. With the addition of Kevin Zeitler, losing Jackson could not have a huge impact. However, losing Gardner-Johnson could make it very difficult for Detroit to see much improvement within their pass defense. If he were to remain with the team, Gardner-Johnson would have likely proven to be another elite veteran presence at the safety position. And with his extreme success in the league, he would have been the perfect mentor for the Lions' young secondary. Along with that, with him playing the safety position, he would have been what could potentially be a much-needed last line of defense, if any opposing wide receivers burn one on Detroit's young cornerbacks. So the big ticket question is still this: why won't Detroit be heading to the Super Bowl in 2024? Let's get real serious here for a minute, guys. The Lions, they just don't have what it takes to put together a deep playoff run in 2024. Look, they provided in 2023 that they have the leadership and the talent to be able to pull out close games when the pressure is on, but being in so many games that were decided by maybe one or two plays in the postseason, they might not even end up being lucky this year, especially if Coach Dan Campbell does continue to ignore many key metrics and very common sense things going forward by trying to do it all on fourth down. However, they do have one of the best passing offenses in the league, and with Gibbs likely playing a much bigger role in the second season, there is a strong chance, and I mean strong, that they will be very creative with play calling on their runs. However, even with that being said, their lack of pass defense will ultimately be what holds them back from being Super Bowl champs. Heck, it could just be the ultimate linchpin of making another conference championship appearance, depending on how the playoff seeding ends up. I mean, if they're forced to play a highly seeded team early on, or maybe a team that features a strong passing game, then it could spell a premature end for Detroit. Just look at this real quick. Detroit frequently sees success on the ground using a gap run scheme as well as running power along with RPOs. Now, the gap scheme utilizes motion from other players to be able to go off the appearance of a pass, and the split second of hesitation from the defense is all that he is needed to break loose. Even as a rookie, Gibbs has displayed the vision of a seasoned vet, a skill that will likely only to continue to improve on his career progressing. Pairing this with his incredible shiftiness and the ability to make defensive misses, this is going to continue to be a scheme that Detroit will heavily rely on in the 2024 season. And if, by chance, that their new additions on the secondary give them a league average pass defense, they could be a real problem for the rest of the league in the season. Even with a talented rival in the NFC North with Green Bay Packers, and also sharing the division with promising teams in the Minnesota Vikings and Bears, their division will be Detroit's to lose. However, when comparing their roster to other competitors, they don't really stack up to other elite teams in the NFC, such as the 49ers and the Eagles. While they have some very promising young pieces that will more than likely contribute to developing the 2024 season, they're still missing another superstar talent that will help set them apart from any other top talents in their conference. Barring season injuries to the key players around the league on the team that stand in the way of Detroit and a title, it appears that 2024 will be another year that the curse of Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson will continue to haunt the franchise.